of man crawls into his own grave in search of hope.
Hello, baby. And this is another dose of Static Sessions, and it's your favorite boogeyman. I hope this video is finding everybody in good health and in good spirits. Let's jump right in this, shall we? So in the words of Mr. Peter, you know it really grinds my gears. Where are all the people that were grown and mature enough during the AIDS epidemic? Where are they at now? Why aren't they speaking up now? This really bothers me to my core. They're supposed to be the leading generation. This doesn't trigger any kind of sense of deja vu with you guys at all. I mean, from the media to the medical stuff, none of this rings a bell to you at all. This isn't Fauci's first rodeo. Obviously. So where are you guys? Why aren't you speaking up? Why are you just letting this happen? This is what I want to know, and it really freaking bothers me. Well, I didn't even cuss right there. Did you like that? Where are you guys? Why don't you speak up? There should be a large population of people that are like, hey, I have seen this shit before. This shit rings a bell with me. Where are you guys at? This is my problem. Let me know, because I would love to see it. So once upon a time, there was a great man named Dr. Robert Wilner. He wrote a book in the mid-'80s going for eating healthy, the dangers of processed foods, GMOs. Now, mind you, this is back in the 80s, so no one really knew about GMOs or processed foods or anything like that as far as the common population. No one really knew about it, so he was kind of a pioneer in the sense. But he was talking about how processed foods have links to certain spectrums of the autism spectrum. They have certain links to certain cancers and everything else, you know, all the fattiness and all the empty calories and everything like that. So anyway, he wrote that book back in the mid-'80s. In 1990, there was a Florida Board of Medicine ruling that stated, and I quote, Dr. Wilner had made inappropriate medical claims about food products. And because of this ruling, his Florida medical license was suspended. Now notice the quotes. Dr. Wilner had made inappropriate, not inaccurate, not false, but inappropriate medical claims about food products. Now how about that for the devil in the details, right? So then a few years later, the AIDS epidemic happened. If you're too young to remember, look it up. You'll kind of get a feel from this video. There'll be more videos, but kind of look it up for yourself. It was a huge thing, and it's very relatable in the way things were handled as it is today. And this guy, I mean, you can look this up as well. Dr. Wilner was one of the #1 treaters of AIDS patients. You got to remember, at the time, a lot of doctors and medical professionals didn't want to go near AIDS patients because they were scared of transmitting it and contracting it and so forth and so on. But he was one of the #1 medical professionals that treated AIDS patients at the time. And in 1994, he came out with a book called Deadly Deception. I looked for this book online. The only place I could find it was on Amazon or eBay. I don't remember which one, but it was like $500 for this book, right? Crazy. In this book, he's speaking about how Fauci and a lot of other people that were heads of the NIH at the time, they were putting out a drug called AZT, which was actually killing more people, making people that were already immune compromised and different diseases and conditions that they already possessed stronger, and then they die from that to treat AIDS. That's why they put AZT out there. And he went around for 7 months trying to tell everybody, you know, trying to get this word out there. He was offering $100,000 for somebody to come up with one shred of factual scientific evidence that proved HIV caused AIDS. Nobody would. Nobody could prove it. And I mean, he was going around talking shit, not just the country, but the world. He was going around talking shit about Fauci, talking shit about all these doctors, hoping that one of them would take him to court. Because in a court of law, he would have the opportunity to present evidence proving that they were liars, that they were killing people on purpose, but nobody ever took him to court. He did this for 7 months. And not only this, wherever he went, he would find somebody that had HIV, and he would become blood brothers with them on the spot in front of the cameras, whoever wanted to see. And he would go get tested, and not once did he ever have AIDS. Kind of weird, right? And then he died April 15th, 1995, 7 months and 2 weeks after he released his book, The Deadly Deception. He died of a heart attack. Now, isn't it? It kind of makes me wonder, and it should you too. Don't you ever just think, like, all these people that are caught up in these strange situations and all these quote unquote conspiracy theory stories, why do they all die from heart problems, heart failure, heart attack, cardiac arrest? It's always, doesn't that sound, it's a little weird, right? Am I the only one? No? I don't know. Think on it. Let me know. Anyway, so I'm going to play this video. The first couple minutes are kind of an overview, and then There will be a memoriam, and then after that is a more in-depth about the drug, about the disease, about a lot of things. But you can watch that if you're really interested. I would highly advise you watch it. You got to remember, this man died to get this information out there. And you'll actually see him, exchange blood with somebody that had HIV. So there you go. I hope you guys like this video. Let me know what you think. Yo.
And I will put the lie to the individuals of the NIH, particularly Gallo and Fauci and Hazeltine and Essex and the rest of these scoundrels of the worst order. Criminals guilty of genocide, without a doubt. I invite them to take me to court. I wish Burroughs Wellcome would take me to court, because they have been putting out a killer drug knowingly. Because in a court of law, I would have the opportunity to provide the absolute proof and evidence. Does the press bother reading? Do they understand the English language? The liars and killers like Fauci and Gallo and Hazeltine and Essex and Flossie von Stahl and the Margaret Fischels, these people are getting by with the lie and getting paid immense sums of money for it and praise from the rest of the world while they murder. Where was the press? Where are you people? Here they're giving a drug that costs thousands of dollars a year and it doesn't do any good. That's if you want to believe that. But did anybody here bother to look at the insert, the paper that comes with the drug? It's a DNA terminator. The great lie of Hitler. It's amazing. I think he would envy the job being done by members of the National Institutes of Health and even the media, especially in this country. I charge the media with part of the responsibility, and a very significant one. Fauci and Gallo, instead of answering the scientific conflicts and contradictions that Dr. Duesberg has so brilliantly pointed out, instead of answering them, they call him a homophobe. Without one single scientific document appearing in any journal in the United States. And as we know now, without any proof whatsoever that the virus caused any disease. The media picked up on it for the sake of a story. And soon the virus that probably caused AIDS was now the virus that caused AIDS. It was proven in the press and nowhere else. The lie is so compounded and so idiotic and so unbelievable that you literally have to fight your way out of the maze of these lies. They are all unadulterated lies, and the men responsible for them and women belong in jail. So I won't cast the stones at the thousands and thousands and thousands of virologists out there who are going along with this scam. Because, you see, they would be out of jobs if they dared criticize Margaret Heckler or the heads of the NIH. They'd be out of jobs, and they'd have families that they have to support, and futures that would be down the drain. You don't cross the establishment. And so the lie is being perpetuated by the silence. The liars and killers like Fauci and Gallo and Hazeltine and Essex and Flossie von Stahl and the Margaret Fischels, these people are getting by with the lie and getting paid immense sums of money for it and praise from the rest of the world while they murder. The study at the University of Miami was completely fraudulent. You see, I believed that the virus caused AIDS from 1984 to 88, and I treated AIDS patients. One of the few doctors willing to. Doctors were scared for their lives to even treat the patient. By the way, sticking my finger, nothing new. I did it lots of times in treating my AIDS patients. And in fact, it's amazing, that in spite of the fact that we are at such great exposure to this deadly disease, the incidence of the disease amongst medical personnel of all types is less than the general population. This is a first in the history of science. Think about that. How is it possible? Maybe the virus has nothing to do with it. Not only maybe, the virus has nothing to do with it. In 1988, I was invited to a dinner where Burroughs Wellcome was going to push AZT as a drug for treating AIDS. And we were told we could ask questions during the dinner because Margaret Fischel was going to be speaking. And when she mentioned that the drug AZT had 56 side effects, I raised my hand. And I said, Dr. Fischel, how do you do a double-blind study on a drug with 56 side effects? You've got to know if you're on the drug. And she said to me and the rest of the doctors sitting there, well, the placebo had 31. And I raised my hand again. How could a placebo have 31 side effects? How could an inert substance have 31 side effects? I didn't know what was wrong then, but I knew there was something wrong. I knew there was something dreadfully wrong, and I didn't know how dreadfully wrong and how deadly wrong it was. And I will put the lie to the individuals of the NIH, particularly Gallo and Fauci and Hazeltine and Essex, and the rest of these scoundrels of the worst order. Criminals guilty of genocide, without a doubt. I invite them to take me to court. I wish Burroughs Wellcome would take me to court, because they have been putting out a killer drug knowingly. Because in a court of law, I would have the opportunity to provide the absolute proof and evidence, as I have in my book, Deadly Deception. Now, I'm not alone in what I'm doing here today. How does the press escape such obvious truths? Why would the finest virologist in the world, the most noted virologist, member of our National Academy of Sciences, Peter Duesberg, why would he put his entire career on the line? What did he have to gain? He's already lost his laboratory and his funding. They can't take away his professorship because he's tenured. Why would a Charles A. Thomas, professor emeritus of Harvard, say the same thing? Why would Kary Mullis, who won the Nobel Prize in virology last year, why would he stick his neck out? What did he have to gain? These are the questions reporters should be asking. And in order to sell a book, I would inoculate myself with a virus that supposedly is deadly. Ever think that maybe we all know something that you just don't get? That if you take the virus out of the equation, you have a perfectly understandable disease with a perfectly understandable answer. And I might remind you, in case you are not aware of it, and if you haven't read my book, that we have known what causes acquired immune deficiency diseases for at least 70 years. It's in the medical textbooks. It's there for you to read. Number one cause on the face of this earth is malnutrition and starvation. AZT, a drug that was discovered in the 60s as a chemotherapeutic drug for cancer and was shelved because it was too toxic to treat cancer. A drug worse than cancer is being used to treat people who are immunosuppressed. Now let's go back to the other causes of AIDS. So it's not only street drugs but medical drugs, but now 3 is radiation. What do they worry about at Chernobyl and Nagasaki and Hiroshima? But number 4 is chemotherapy. Number 4. The number 4 cause of death of acquired immune deficiency diseases. Chemotherapy. And the most toxic chemotherapeutic drug of all times, AZT, is what they're now using to treat AIDS. And the Concord study, completed last year. Now, can you imagine saying to the world, where was the press? Where are you people? Here they're giving a drug that costs thousands of dollars a year, and it doesn't do any good? That's if you want to believe that. But did anybody here bother to look at the insert, the paper that comes with the drug? It's a DNA terminator. It means it is a terminator, just like the movie. It terminates life. You terminate DNA, you terminate life. And they talk about side effects in the insert. When are you going to learn there is no such thing as a side effect in medicine? It's an unwanted direct effect. And you know what one of the unwanted direct effects of AZT is? Lymphoma, cancer, one of the diseases of AIDS, as they call it. Oh, another so-called side effect, which is really an unwanted direct effect, pancytopenia. You need a definition? Pancytopenia. Pan, all, cytos, cells, penia, loss of all your cells. That's AIDS. That is the definition of AIDS. So AZT, by definition, by their own drug insert, causes AIDS, and nobody survives AZT. That will eventually lead to your death. And they've cut the dosage way down because it was killing them too fast. It's like giving somebody a large dose of strychnine and they die within 5 minutes. And so the next person, you give them a few drops of it and they last 4 or 5 days, and you say, strychnine's a wonderful drug. This person lasts 5 times longer. This is the kind of thing that they present to the world. Now, I have offered for over a year now, and I continue to offer it, $100,000 to anyone who will give me one scientific document that proves that HIV causes any serious disease. It doesn't. It is a scandal and a scam beyond belief, because I'm not afraid of getting AIDS. I know as a scientist that there is nothing to fear. I know what causes AIDS. I am not going to lie to others nor myself about it. I don't like sticking myself with a needle because it hurts. And if you've ever seen my expression on pictures, you know that to be true. So, Kim Freitas. Kim, are you here? Yeah. We're going to become blood brothers. Yeah. And please, to the press and to everyone else, I don't intend to stick myself 300 times because it wouldn't prove anything anyway. Oh, and might I say that a Dr. Gottlieb, who achieved fame for being the doctor that noted the first 4 or 5 cases of AIDS, who said to me on a radio broadcast the other night, he would believe me if I took a liter of blood. That's a transfusion of blood. And I said, you know, you must be mad. What is that going to prove? If you need a liter of blood to get AIDS, then nobody's going to get AIDS. Right. In any case. Well, I got to do myself first, and then I have to do you. Here, but let me do your finger, okay? I mean, I got to do you first, right? All right. Excuse me. Then I'm going to do me. Excuse me, I had that backwards. All right. Wait a minute. I got to find. This is a heck of a time to lose my needle. There we go. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a typical butterfly needle set. If somebody has a scissor, it'll help. No, I got it. Okay. It's sterile. And usually we use it to take blood by sticking this in, and then we can inject things also. So, let's do that. We got this. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to... let me put my glasses on, okay? Good. I think you'd rather I do that. I got to tell you a cute little story. Shortly after my son was born many years ago, he's now 40, he got some kind of an infection or whatnot, And I spoke to the pediatrician at the hospital. I was an intern at the time. And he said, go home and give him a shot of penicillin. So I took the syringe and everything home, and my wife held Bruce over her shoulder, and I grabbed his little bottom cheek, and I go like this. And I stuck it right into my thumb, so.
Careful.
You can tell I don't like doing this, never have. Okay. We want to get a lot of blood. There we go. Okay? There we go. Now, I'm wiping this needle thoroughly in this blood. And I say to my friends Fauci and Gottlieb and Galpin and Gallo and all the rest of those criminals, all right, that this is for the sake of humanity and no other reason. Right. And believe me, it hurts. And this is in the hope that it'll save the lives of millions of individuals who will die because of the greatest lie ever told.
Thank you.
Get off drugs is right. Get off drugs. Now, I will, by the way, at the request of many individuals, I did go for a test a couple of weeks ago in New York City at the biggest clinic there that does more testing than anybody else. And the doctor who ran it was bragging about the fact that he did more. When I told him about the book I wrote, he said, shh, don't say anything. My patients might hear. Okay. I tested negative. And, of course, Fauci said that you need, when he was answering what I did in Cleveland a week ago, he said, well, he's going to have to stick himself 300 times to transmit the virus. Where are you people in the press? 300 times to transmit a virus? You cannot have an epidemic under those circumstances. If you can't transmit it by blood, you certainly can't transmit it sexually, unless you're into real sadistic acts during sex. I don't know how much blood you want to draw. It's literally unbelievable what they're getting away with. How does the press let this go? Oh, an epidemic. United States government says 12,000 people died each year from 1985 to 1992. Now, a child in public school will tell you an epidemic starts out in 1 year. You got everybody's involved. That's where they would put it. 12,000 a year for 7 years in a row? That's not epidemic. By definition, it's endemic. And you would expect in 7 years, considering it spreads sexually, that you'd have probably 15 to 20 million. We're a pretty active country when it comes to sex. For 20 years in Nixon's war on cancer, they spent over $20 billion looking for a virus that caused cancer. And they came up empty-handed. They not only couldn't find a retrovirus, which was the ideal choice because it doesn't kill cells, and it's multiplied by the cells, which is what cancer cells do, but they never found any disease that it caused. But guess what they chose for the scam of AIDS? A retrovirus. Already $20 billion in 20 years, we found nothing that it does. And we also found that absolutely it doesn't kill cells, because if it did, it would commit suicide. It needs the cell in order to replicate, to be alive. So the epidemic would be over before it began. It's impossible. But this is the virus. They've just spent another $20 billion in only 10 years' time. And they're asking for more. And now they want to give us a vaccine. See? Oh, will they make money with that? They not only have a test for HIV, which, by the way, is not for the virus. It's for immunity. Like I say, it's the first disease in the history of medicine. When you're immune to it, you're going to die from it. But now, they want to give us a vaccine. The test HIV tests for antibodies, not for the virus. Well, Antibodies is what you get when you use a vaccine. You want to produce antibodies to fight the disease. I'm at a loss to understand. If we already have the antibodies, why do we want to create the antibodies? Kind of redundant, isn't it? The great lie of Hitler. It's amazing. I think he would envy the job being done by members of the National Institutes of Health and even the media, especially in this country. I charge the media with part of the responsibility, and a very significant one, in a current Holocaust that can end up being worse than the one that occurred during World War II. When it was first announced that Dr. Robert Gallo had found the virus that probably caused AIDS, and that announcement was made with Margaret Heckler in 1984 to the press and to the media, without one single scientific document appearing in any journal in the United States. And as we know now, without any proof whatsoever that the virus caused any disease. The media picked up on it for the sake of a story. And soon the virus that probably caused AIDS was now the virus that caused AIDS. It was proven in the press and nowhere else. First of all, let me tell you something. The CDC that let syphilitics untreated when they had drugs that could have treated, just to observe, this same CDC has already admitted that between 40 and 60% of the cases listed as AIDS were never even tested for HIV. And not that it makes any difference, because the test is meaningless.
So could this scenario also...
You know, I often asked myself the question, if my children were still in school, and I had house payments to make, and I had to put them through school, etc., would I be doing what I'm doing today? I don't think I've ever answered the question, because I'm kind of afraid of what I might answer if I was going to answer honestly. And he who is without sin shouldn't be casting any stones. So I won't cast the stones at the thousands and thousands and thousands of virologists out there who are going along with this scam. Because, you see, they would be out of jobs if they dared criticize Margaret Heckler or the heads of the NIH. They'd be out of jobs, and they'd have families that they have to support, and futures that would be down the drain. You don't cross the establishment. And so the lie is being perpetuated by the silence. And even Gallo would say to the press in answer to the question, what does he have to say about Duisberg's challenges? And he says, well, if we're wrong, why do so many people believe us? I mean, I could just see Hitler and his stormtroopers saying to the press, if we're wrong, why does everybody do what we tell them to do? Because they're running the show, and you're looking at not just a simple lie of science. In the back of my book, I have the picture of Pedro Tocino of Spain, father of 2 young girls, a hemophiliac. Nothing wrong with the man. But because he received so-called tainted blood, they had him on AZT. I stuck myself to get that man off AZT. I said, if I stick myself with your blood, will it convince you there's nothing to worry about? And Pedro Tocino, now over a year later, is very healthy, having a wonderful life, enjoying his 2 young daughters. But all of his friends are dying or are dead. This is real. And I don't blame those scientists out there keeping their mouths shut because their jobs depend on it. And I understand that exists in the press too. But you've got organizations. And in a way, so do the virologists have organizations. And if enough of the honest ones would stand up and take that chance, if you all stand together, you make a statement. And you can do that in your press associations, even though the people who own the newspapers and the television shows are afraid of losing their sponsors. You can at least keep your dignity. That's the choice you have to make. And that's the choice that I have had to make. I figured that if I didn't do what I knew was right, I'd end up cutting my throat shaving in the morning, because I wouldn't be able to live with myself. And that's the honest, simple truth.
Welcome to prime time, bitch!